We are the brand consultancy that brought crowdsourcing to Asia Pacific in a brand creation context. So we were the first to employ co-creation using a crowdsourcing tool with one of the partners I believe that you heard from this morning, Shelley from Chaotix, are our strategic partner globally. And we're very proud of the work we've done here in Singapore and the Southeast Asia corridor. I'm not going to walk you through a turgid PowerPoint presentation of case studies. What I'm going to try and give you is a rapid, quick-fire snapshot of some of the learnings, particularly of branding and creating brands using the power of the inner crowd. So I'm preaching to the converted here this afternoon. We all know the power of crowdsourcing. We all know the power and the wisdom of a crowd over the expert, experienced few consultants in a boardroom. Trust the crowd. You all know that already. But what is often overlooked is the power of the inner crowd, the power of the employee. Now, the organisations we work with have complexity and scale. For example, we work with a very large banking brand here in Singapore. They have 28,000 employees across five countries. That is a community and an ecosystem in its own right, and steering the large ship, I won't call it the Titanic, requires engagement. We've got several case studies that these insights are born from, and I'm pleased to share what is simply thought, leadership and opinion. If you'd like to see any of the case studies or any of the supporting evidence, I'll be available online. My contact details are available through the event organisers. So, how might we envision, build and activate brands for millions of Asians on the rise? The key is relevancy and can be revealed by the power of the inner crowd. The nature of exceptional brands drives this. They are revealed, born from insight, ideas and opportunity. We don't believe at Future Brand that we create brands. We believe that we reveal them. If you reveal a brand and its core strengths, it's much easier to bring that brand to life through an entity of 28,000 employees across 5 countries. They must hit the mark. In addition to that, they must be visionary, inspire, motivate, mobilise, leverage and last. At Future Brand, we have a foresight fundamental that runs through our brand creation process and methodology. Foresight is about hitting the mark today and also tomorrow. We believe, and some of the insights I want to share with you today, is that employees are the richest source of that insight and foresight. The disparate nature of Asian markets and the volatile demography of the region raises important questions as to how great brands are built. The challenge for us, and we know there are many shortfalls in branding, these are just a selection of few as they relate to this topic. Branding traditionally creates a static persona that bears little resemblance with reality. I'm sure we all experience that on a daily basis, that the message that's communicated through the glossy TVC or the nice collateral or the welcome kit I get from my bank is very different to me trying to bank online and get the transfer to actually work. It assumes a top-down approach in which no truth is being told. I think part of the successful formula for Future Brand in this part of the world is not only are we very, very generous with our intellectual property and our information, we're very plain-spoken, we use business logic, and we tell the truth. And the CEOs that I counsel on a daily basis appreciate that. And often in the brand creation process, it is an autocratic structure in which the brand is being created. People are told what to believe, and that's not genuine and it doesn't have impact. So one of the challenges for us is to overcome this top-down approach. The top-down approach also prevents proactive internal support. It's met with scepticism, and rightly so. As a result, most brands do not grow organically, detached from the organisation with little momentum. We see this time and time again. The point here is I believe it's amplified in Asia Pacific, particularly because of some of the autocratic approaches to internal staffing structures and the value of employees, which in the Asian context, staff members are often not valued. I mean, the whole concept of internal communications and internal brand engagement has been until recently a foreign concept. There was quite a lot of news coverage about Future Brand's appointment to the Singapore Police Force and helping them to rebrand the Singapore Police Force. And that doesn't mean new logos or new livery, although it might in months to come. What it meant was using brand creation, and particularly co-creation and crowdsourcing with the 15,000 strong member force to create the new brand and act as a cultural catalyst. The staff had never been spoken to before at Singapore Police Force. The version of employee engagement and employee communication was the intranet that nobody logged onto, or let's post some posters around the water cooler. So this was the first time a public service organisation was not only talking with its employees but engaging them. And that's, that starting point with Singpol and with many other organisations is very much the norm in this part of the world. Companies are experiencing a fierce war for talent. One of my engineering clients told me that they are attempting to steal staff from the banking sector because they simply cannot get enough engineers to come and work for them, and vice versa. This is the number one issue that CEOs are telling us is retarding their growth and is the biggest risk to the realisation of their corporate strategies. They cannot get good people to work for them. So quite paradoxically to the point before, if you're not engaging with your employees in a meaningful way, and that's actually a symptom of the fact that you don't value them in the first place, how on earth are you going to attract top calibre, high-performing talent? McKinsey's released a report a couple of years ago that is the same as the latest report. The theme's not changing. Conglomerate growth is largely achieved by acquisition of diversified revenues. Simply put, big businesses are buying other businesses, but those businesses are a different nature of service. So they're diversifying their risk by buying different types of businesses. Now, more often than not, brand is not factored into that conglomerate acquisition equation, and it can be a rapid acceleration of organisational alignment for efficiencies, maximisation, migration of target markets, etc., etc. There are literally dozens and dozens of reasons why you could use your brand to accelerate the alignment of the businesses you want to bring into your group. That's not happening in Asia on a large scale. Not rocket science, everybody knows this already, but market diversity within the SEA corridor makes it essential for companies to unify around a common purpose and culture. When you are trying to reveal a brand, as I pointed out in the early part of this presentation, we look for universal truths. Universality is incredibly different and difficult to achieve when you're trying to reveal that universal insight or universal driver across 4 different segments in 5 different countries. The power of the inner crowd can help you do that. Another challenge in Asia, changes to the brand by an external consultancy are often viewed sceptically or feared, particularly if you're part of an international network like we are. The number of times I know my predecessors have come into boardrooms and metaphorically taken their watch and told them the time. I could be a very wealthy woman now if I had a dollar for every time that had happened. We have had to work as a consultancy, as an international brand consultancy with a large contingent of expats. We have to work exceptionally hard to regain the credibility in the eyes of the organisations we counsel. And that is because not only consultancies but international consultancies have not done a particularly good job of implementing conceptual ideas here in Asia. So how do we address these challenges? I'm in the home stretch, Epi, don't worry, 5 minutes, I'll stay on time. First, we build internal consensus around a big idea to get buy-in throughout the organisation. So we as an organisation really, we've got an amazing partner in Chaotix. We've helped influence their product. They've helped influence our service delivery. It's a very collaborative arrangement. But as Maria said earlier, it's the technology. It's the use of the technology rather than the technology itself. So we see crowdsourcing as a tool in the service of co-creation. So we use co-creation within the internal employee base to get buy-in across the organisations and sometimes geographies. We value the expertise of the frontline staff that represent the brand on a daily basis. When you want to know what's going on, talk to the people who deliver the service. Are there any Deming disciples in the room? People who subscribe to Edwards Deming management theory is it's never the person, it's the process. Examine your processes, build the right product, and sales will come. This is the cornerstone of the principles that drove Japan's economy post-Second World War, and we see it proven time and time again with the richness of results we get from co-creation and crowdsourcing with employees. They are the ones that do the job. Ask them what needs to change, ask them what needs to be improved, generate ideas with them, validate and test ideas with them. We respect corporate practices and employee input and internally validate our ideas. One of the most, when we started to use crowdsourcing in brand creation, it was like understanding that the world was no longer flat. For a brand consultant to replace FGD groups with crowdsourcing 5 years ago would have just literally been like saying the world is round to someone who thought that it was flat. FGD groups give you a 2-hour snapshot to a segment, be it internal or external, that is translated by the facilitator, who may or may not be good. It's then translated another time in its documentation to a PowerPoint presentation that's then summarised. And it's a moment in time. It's heavily subjective and dependent on the quality of the research facilitator. So 2 hours, heavily influenced by the variability of the facilitator, and 9/10 of it is lost in translation and then summarised in an executive summary that might be read 3 months later. Compared to crowdsourcing with your employees is a conversation that takes place over months or weeks, however long you want it to take place, where you're not just generating the ideas, but you can validate them as well. We've actually got a product that we use in the consumer space called speed branding. The only way we are able to offer that product to the market is because we are able to generate insights and co-create and validate simultaneously with the crowd or the target market we're trying to create a product concept for. That wouldn't have been possible 2 or 3 years ago without crowdsourcing. So the validation component is not only enriched, but it's also reduced in the time it takes by harnessing the power of employees. So great brands create experiences around products and services. We might all subscribe to that view here today. Many organisations, particularly in Asia, still believe that great brands are built around a logo. They're not. They're built around products and services, the customer engagement that goes with it, creating positive impressions over time that elicit emotional and personal connections with people. We also believe that in order to create a brand that has longevity, creation needs to assume a holistic perspective on building brands based on internal strengths and core truths, customer centricity and experience design. So we have often inherited train wrecks called branding projects, where large established organisations have been prescribed a new brand. A new brand's been created for them, and it is so far from reality that the organisation couldn't possibly re-engineer its operations, its policies, its processes, its services, its culture to meet that new brand that's been created for them. So this is why harnessing the power of the crowd is extremely important, because it can help you reveal what's already there. It's easier to build around something that already exists. Branding also needs to become strongly integrated in business strategy, product and internal operations. We've got a 3-year project at the moment that we refer to as the Inside Out strategy. Fix and focus internally before we talk about it externally. And that's a large, complex, 40,000 strong employee company. The emphasis of the branding project and building a great brand for this company is operational. It's changing their products and services and the features and benefits that support them. It's changing messaging. It's changing policies and procedures and standard operating practices in the call centre or in the retail branch or in the delivery centre. These are traditionally not areas that brand consultants in this part of the world participate in, and that's changing. The power of the inner crowd. I hope that in this very brief snapshot I've given you, and it is common sense, but it is often overlooked. Employees are a very rich source of insights and ideas. Respect the person that does the job on the front line, involve them in the process, and you will benefit from it tenfold. The involvement of internal stakeholders leads to discovery of hidden strengths. If you think about the way brands are created, as I said before, it's a fairly traditional, known methodology. You generate insights, normally through FGD groups, maybe some consumer connections and observations, and that goes into the consultancy hopper and a brand strategy position is created. If you're using the same techniques as everybody else, in the same way as everybody else, sharing the same market as everybody else, and offering the same product as your competitors, it's going to be very hard to get quality differentiation in your brand positioning. You have to change the formula. And using employees to reveal strengths of your business, your products, your services, your service signatures, your opportunities for engagement is largely overlooked. Building brands on the basis of culture and core internal truths is more credible and effective. It's easier to implement. It allows the brand to be created organically, reflect the corporate spirit, and grow with the business. Crowdsourcing internally and co-creation with employees is itself a signal of change. Rather than focusing on the product or the outcome of the co-creation, it is the process itself that can win management points when it's trying to use the branding project as a cultural catalyst. As a result, we simultaneously create better, more authentic brands while overcoming alignment challenges. The advantages in detail are sound congruence between brand promise and corporate reality. It's easier to deliver on the promise we make. Employees have already bought in on it. Create a strong brand relevancy based on diversity of ideas and perspectives. And similarly to the way in which Maria talked about the scale of her big data and inputs, you get that across. You couldn't possibly run as many, the cost prohibitive to run the number of focus groups across 23,000 employees and 5 countries. With crowdsourcing, it's a scalable tool. So we are able to get trend and diversification of perspectives to build the brand around. We empower employees and increase staff motivation, morale and commitment almost automatically. We discover compelling brand stories that are ideal for external activation and internal alignment. The ability to tell a story, particularly in a large, complex organisation of scale across multiple geographies, is still imperative. We engage employees to make them identify with our brand so we become a more desirable employer. The process is in itself is a signal of an approach or a philosophy of management. And we manage cultural variation by building brands around a shared purpose and corporate culture that has been validated by those employees who will deliver the brand. Sustainability is ensured because we speak of the people and company they proudly represent. This is not hypothetical. We've done this several times in Asia Pacific. As I said before, Singapore police force is suffering from attrition. They are the poor cousin in terms of recruitment against other special forces. We have used co-creation in what was at the time the first public service large-scale application of crowdsourcing to generate insights for the brand project. Patronus, which is a Fortune 5, number 68 in the Fortune 500, it is a global brand. We used co-creation within the B2B sector globally, so not just in Malaysia, but we went to their customers around the world and we undertook a 6-month conversation with them to generate product and service innovation ideas. UOB is, for those Singaporeans in the room, you'll know it's part of the identity of Singapore. This is a quiet achiever. They are now expanding into the region and indeed the world, and they want to keep up with the advances of technology. They want to keep up with their ambitions as an organisation, and they're using co-creation and actually embedding what was a temporary tool for brand creation. They're now turning that into a standing routine operation process. It's an ideation incubator, and it comes from all levels of the organisation, and all the countries they operate in. And it's an incredibly powerful tool to, again, improve the service that's delivered. Singtel, as I said before, we're able to respond to market changes, market forces, particularly competitor activity, extremely quickly using co-creation with employees because they have a vested interest and we already have the tools in place. Foresight, this is fundamental to the future brand methodology, future sources of growth and value for the brand. We can test and validate our ideas with the employees real time. And Maria, this brand will be familiar to you, ABS-CBN, Philippines' largest media conglomerate. We've been working with them for the last 18 months to co-create what is a brand that is privately owned, but is owned by the people. It's like saying to Australians, we're going to change Vegemite, the brand. We did not only an employee crowdsourcing program with them and tapped the power of the inner crowd, but we did a citizenry exchange crowdsourcing platform as well to ensure that we had citizenry alignment. That's it from Future Brand. Thank you for your attention, and I'm sure Epi will make the content available online. Thank you.